Here I've got a 1D Mark IV, a $5,000 US flagship camera from late 2009, 16 megapixels, currently going for 500-ish US used. And similar to every other camera I've managed to get my hands on, I like it. I like it a lot. If you've never held a 1D series camera, I don't think you can fully appreciate how special they are, though. There's just no way to properly communicate it in a video. I'm also shooting a Sigma Art 50mm 1.4 lens, a really sharp lens and a beautiful lens. That's the only lens I have with me at the moment, unfortunately, because it's severely limiting my options here. The 1D and the 1DS line of cameras ended about 2.5 years after the release of this Mark IV, replaced by or merged into the 1DX line. It is kind of strange that late 2009 Canon was still releasing flagship cameras with an APS-H sensor. I mean, I have no problem with APS-H, but it's strange. It was originally a decision based on compromise. The 1D line was focused on speed, thus a slightly cropped sensor helped in achieving 8 frames per second with that original 1D, while the 1DS line was focused on quality, and thus it was full frame, but it shot a lot slower. Merging the two lines into the 1DX made tons of sense and probably should have happened sooner. I prefer full frame, sometimes removing the outer bits of the frame where most lens imperfections manifest can suck a bit of the personality out of the images, but also I frequently need just a little bit more reach with a telephoto lens, and a cropped sensor gives me exactly that. Though if I could only choose one, I'd probably choose full frame, but I don't have to choose one, so it's nice to have both. And speaking of the boring minutia of camera sensors, I'm so fucking tired, used up, uninspired, hating what I'm shooting and where I'm shooting it. I want to travel, like really travel, but I have such crippling anxiety. Makes it impossible. I've been shooting this camera, enjoying it, sure, but not really able to create much in the way of art with it. And thus I find myself not really excited to share any of this. The oh-so-rugged weather-sealed Canon 1D Mark IV shoots 10 frames per second. It has a 45-point autofocus system, dual card slots. Currently, it's similar in price to the Canon 7D Mark II, 5D Mark III. The Nikon D3S is close but slightly more expensive. The original Sony A7 is similar in price. But that doesn't mean I'm not enjoying this camera. I am overall. Yes, I'm struggling, but not because of this camera. The camera's great. Really, really good. And if it is at all related to the camera, it's not in the way you think. Because while I'm over here unraveling, the camera is not. The sensor's top tier, especially paired with the Sigma Art lens. All the images have been edited though. I usually go out of my way to show everything straight out of camera, but I just didn't feel like it. But straight out of camera, the images have a great look, a look uniquely its own. What I mean is it does not remind me of any of the other 1Ds that I own. I don't own this one. Still though, I'm not bringing the personality. I'm not loose enough, open enough. I'm stuck in my head. I'm being too careful. And this camera is reflecting all of that right back at me. I feel like it's waiting for me to tell it to do something cool, and I'm just failing to deliver interesting instructions. So instead it's shining a light on my incompetence. But it's seriously like I have to teach myself how to take photos again every single time I go out with a camera. Why is that? It's pathetic. So maybe I lean into the absurdity. The daily forgetting and relearning is just part of my process, however broken it feels. That is my rhythm, apparently. I wonder too if all the switching between cameras is part of the problem. Back when I was at my busiest, a real working photographer, I mean. I used one model of camera. I mean, 2 cameras at a time, but I would shoot those bastards until they were falling apart. Then I'd upgrade. I mean, they never actually fell apart, but my point is my relationship with gear is very different these days. Today it's more like a question. What camera am I in the mood for this week? Maybe that's not for the best. I worry that I'm putting too much emphasis on the camera at the expense of the work. The 1D Mark IV here, I look at it, I consider, is it old enough to have vintage charm? That seems to be a thing I'm into these days. Well, for me, the answer is no. I see it as a very capable professional tool, a joy to operate, but not a camera dripping with vintage appeal. And I don't mean like fake 1970s styling to make it look vintage, although I have no problem with that. I even like it, in a way. I mean, is it vintage in its soul? Authentically vintage? Is it sufficiently different than tools available today? I wonder how it would compare image quality-wise to the 1DS Mark II. They're both 16 megapixel cameras. For me, the 1DS Mark II is both a credible pro tool, still, and a camera with quite a bit of authentic vintage appeal. The 1DS Mark II is slightly higher res, but also several years older. It's full frame though, and the 1D4 is APS-H, as previously mentioned, because I initially thought that might be a good angle for a video to compare the two, being that they're so similar in resolution. But the drastic difference in field of view makes comparisons kind of seem weird. They're just too different to compare, really. The change in the field of view is distracting. You know, 1Ds have such great autofocus. At first, I was kind of thinking that maybe the Mark IV wasn't quite as good. I mean, it's spot on nailing certain kinds of things. My cat's eyeball, my wife's eyeball, but really struggles in backlit scenarios, or to grab one particular branch among many. Not a big problem in terms of real-world use. I mean, I think it would handle quite well at a wedding, but it's something I noticed. But I suspect it's actually the lens causing that. That would make a lot more sense to me. But the 1D Mark IV and the 1DS Mark II, they're separated by about 4+ years, 2005 versus 2009. The 1DS Mark II is the older of the two, but still has a few advantages. Full frame, slightly higher res, I mentioned those things already. Slightly better color depth as well. But after that, the 1D Mark IV wins in basically every other category, on paper at least. ISO range, screen size and resolution of the screen, speed, 4 frames per second versus 10. Dynamic range, though it's close, they're both pretty good at between 11 and 12 stops. The Mark IV shoots 1080 video, has live view. The 1DS Mark II is too old to have either of those things. And after that, the specs are very similar in terms of the ports and the buttons and the physicality of the two cameras. I do prefer the older design, though, from a cosmetic standpoint. I think it's a really beautiful design. But the larger, higher res screen on the Mark IV is, of course, more useful. The age-old trade-off between beauty and usefulness. Generally, I prefer usefulness, though in this case I prefer beauty. My love for old DSLRs is not rooted in usefulness. Not beauty either, though. It's something that is maybe a bit harder to define, I think. But the way it feels in the hand is certainly important to me, and both of these cameras feel great, and similar. I don't own this camera. It's a loan from a photographer whose work I enjoy on Instagram. I'll leave a link. Please take a look, because I appreciate the loan so much. And the lens was also part of the loan. And I've been curious about this lens for a long time. It's really, really good. Which, by the way, my compliments to how dialed in you have this lens and the body via micro adjustments. Because I have other lenses with me now. Right now I'm using my Sigma Art 35mm lens. And some of the shots came out okay, but most of them I had to trash. It was just kind of disastrous. The 35 is way off, but the 50 is right on. So well done. And the camera is fast, and it's precise, it's capable, high res. 16 megapixels may not sound high res to your particular set of ears, but I've spent the last few weeks shooting a 4 megapixel original 1D, and 16 is quite a bit more than 4, obviously, but I mean the difference is extremely noticeable. 16 is great. roughly equivalent to 35mm film. But is it a consequence of being fairly active on YouTube where one must replace actual growth with gear changes? And even more concerning, is it inevitable that the logistics of capturing video will eventually extinguish the spark from one's still photography? Because I worry that the answer to both, for me at least, is yes. Because I feel both of those things happening, although I don't know that that's the cause. And I've got no shortage of cameras at the moment, but to my credit, it's not because I'm chasing the next shiny thing. It's more like I've built a tiny little museum to my past, stocked with nostalgic things. This camera is great, and all the 1Ds are great, and I don't think you can go wrong with any of them. I personally have a fondness for the early ones, those initial 4 or 5 models. 4, I would say. But a 1D anything is going to be great. The battery on the Mark IV seems improved compared to the older ones. This battery will basically just go and go all day, I found. Although I shot a lot in this camera, a lot more than what I'm showing here, actually. I shot a lot around the apartment, just getting a feel for it. I went out and shot it a few times without getting video also. But I never really got in tune with the light meter, which is strange. I'm not sure why that is. It seemed unpredictable to me. But it's probably just me, and the weird mood I've been in. I probably haven't been paying enough attention. But I had already determined I was going to take a break from talking about cameras, but then finding an original 1D that I could afford and buying it sucked me right back in. But now I really need to recharge that part of my brain. I'm just completely out of things to say about cameras. For every video I've done, there's this whole cycle of, okay, I've just released a video and I'm super relieved to be done, and I'm on a high in the sense that I accomplished what I needed to. Frequently I don't like the result all that much, but at least I did the best I could. So I allow myself to stop thinking about photography for a bit, but then it's time to get back to it, and I'm riddled with anxiety. And I probably wouldn't be if I just used the momentum of the previous video to get right back out there. So now I go through this whole process of trying to get out there, failing, feeling like a loser, swearing it'll be different tomorrow. But it's not. It's exhausting. Cameras, man, they all do exactly the same thing. If you already have one, do you really need another? I mean, if you can't get something you like with the one you have, what are the chances it's going to be different with the one you want? Your problem is you, just as my problem is me.